Well, good evening and welcome to this month's live cast. How is it all going, guys?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Good,
Yourself?
good. Looking forward to this photo critique tonight. It should be fun, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
I'm just,
We've got a fair few entries, didn't we, to go
yeah,
through?
we've got 10 to get through tonight, so let's see how we get on, eh?
Yeah, we couldn't kind of leave any of them out because they're all too good. We like to
Yeah.
break it down to about 6 or 8, but we had some really good entries this month, didn't we? Huh?
Yeah, we did. So
Yeah.
obviously the shout outs we're doing are working. So we ask every month to for people to use the hashtag OPG critique and upload their images to the Facebook group for submission, and then we can get them on this cast and critique them. And there's some really top quality images this month, so looking forward to getting through them.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
So, this is the second sort of live stream we've done since getting back from our trip, eh?
Yeah, I've got the beads of sweat coming off my head because it's actually hot, not because I'm exhausted. It's in the mid to high 30s, and it's 10 o'clock at night here in Rome, Italy, and hope everyone's enjoying the weather where they are in the world, and I hope it's not as hot as it is here. Because my brain doesn't function quite as well when it's this hot. I just want to be laying back on a lounge chair at the beach with the tequila in my hand. But unfortunately, I'm stuck on the third floor of my apartment, and there's no air coming into this place at all. And so sorry, I'm not nervous. It's just ridiculously hot, guys. So please don't look at me like a freak, okay?
Well, get some aircon, buddy.
No more than normal, anyway, eh?
I've got aircon, but we're trying to be sort of eco-friendly as much as we can. So if we can suffer to sort of save the environment a little bit, we do it. If we get to a stage where we're going to dehydrate and die, that's when we put the air conditioner on.
Yeah, that's kind of the key to turn it on, eh?
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people are going to think about at the moment. With what's going on in the world, where we're definitely in global warming is very evident now, isn't it? So I think we've all got to be aware of how we use our energy, don't we?
For sure, definitely.
Sort of brings it all back into outdoor photography, doesn't it? Want to keep appreciating outdoor photography? Let's try and respect to the environment as much as we can. So
definitely.
Here I am tonight, suffering, and I stand for eco-friendly environment and whatnot.
So anyway, we'll have a little. I thought what we'd do is just have a quick chat about our trip to Italy before we get started. So, how did you both find the trip then?
It was horrible, wasn't it?
It was disgusting. Definitely.
It was awful. Yeah. We hated each other.
Maybe we should do a hashtag OPG critique on our own images of our trip.
Yeah.
We should do. Should do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Good trip. Certainly. It was so much of a good trip. I wanted to come straight back.
We'll be over soon, mate. We've got that workshop coming up soon.
Yeah, well, hopefully, fingers crossed, eh?
Definitely.
So, what were your thoughts on it, Tom?
It was nice to shoot something a bit more jaw dropping, something different, and like we said before, it was nice to shoot something with changeable weather. So it's different style of photography to what I'm used to day to day. And again, like we've talked about before as well, it's nice to shoot as a group of mates, and normally we used to sort of walking around on our own, and it's just nice to come together and make a big deal out of it, because it's a big part of it for me. Is the social side of things online, and it's just nice to go see in person and just like immerse yourself in photography, right, as opposed to for a longer period of time, as you know. But yeah, the scenery is amazing. The mountains are stunning. Yeah, and it's nice to get the fresh air in your lungs, do some hiking as well.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
I always find the trips are kind of more productive. If you go out for a day, it's hard, or sometimes hard to kind of come back with something. But if you're going on a full dedicated trip, I find that you come back with loads of stuff.
Yeah.
When you go out for a day, to get your mindset, sort of that that creative mindset rolling. Sometimes that morning shoot isn't enough, is it? You need to sort of be on location for many, many days for you to think photography all the time. But it was great to be together. And a tip for everyone out there who's listening tonight: try and build yourself a community. And I'm not talking about internet community, talking about getting together with people and going out and photograph together and go on workshops and try and learn off each other. These are such important things, This live stream tonight's so important, too, learning off others, how we take our images and all that sort of stuff. But being on field together is such an important thing, and people really need to embrace that way of thinking when we're talking about outdoor photography. Is get together with a group, find people in your local area, go out with them, go out with a shoot together, go and shoot some ducks in a pond, go on a workshop with your favorite photographer. Do these type of things because they really, really do make a difference in the whole photography experience, improving as a photographer and memories.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it's not all about the photography, believe it or not. It's part of it's just getting out there and enjoying it.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, we all take images for a reason. We like to put them up on the internet and people say, wow, great photo. But a lot of it is memories, isn't it? And that's why we're here. It's all about memories.
It is, definitely. Right, so let's crack on with the first image, I think, eh? So I shall... there's the first one. So this one was an image from Ben Ashton.
Ben Ashton,
yeah. We've seen a few images of Ben come in on the outdoor photography, the official outdoor photography Facebook page, haven't we?
Yeah, we have definitely.
Yeah.
So, what are your
nice
thoughts?
Vibrant colours. Hey.
Yeah, you can definitely tell it's spring colours.
Yeah, it's nice to see the bluebell's not so thick. That might sound strange, but you know what I mean. Like it's not so in your face.
A
bit more subtle bluebell image, isn't it? Like as opposed to like a thick carpet.
It is, and it also because he hasn't cranked the saturation on the blues, which a lot of people tend to do.
Yeah, it's a more of a subtle edit. And composition, I know you've got quite a strong foreground.
It's there's nothing in that foreground. There's nothing in that image that's dominating.
Yeah,
no,
it's a mixture of many elements, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you could look at it and you could probably see where he was coming from with this image. But it does lack dimension. That's the first thing that I come across.
Yeah.
We can understand what he's trying to capture. He's got that dominating type of foreground with those fern foliage, sort of leading you into something indirectly with those bluebells sort of, blotched through that foreground into your middle ground there.
Yeah.
But it does the contrast and the saturation and the light is extremely similar from immediate foreground to the whole entire background.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this comes down to the time of day that it was captured and post-production. There are many techniques you can use in post-production to give depth back into an image, and a lot of people know that have seen my tutorials on Outdoor Photography Guide. There are techniques that we can actually use in post-production that are non-destructive techniques, and we're purely just working the raw file. We're extracting. We're not manipulating, just to give a bit of natural depth back into an image. A sensor does capture raw data, but it doesn't capture a feeling. You need to bring that feeling back into it. And I think that You look at this image very close. Those ferns in the foreground are nice and sharp.
Yeah.
But we see that sharpness, we see that saturation, and we see that contrast very consistent throughout the whole image. So it's almost like it's flat, isn't it?
Yeah. It's got a very flat look about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little tip out there, mate. Great capture. Beautiful place to go to. I would love to go there myself. I would think about maybe, I don't know what time of day this image was captured. I hope that you're on now listening to us so you can give us some feedback in the comments. But this is the typical example, and we've all made, well, not the mistake, but we've all done it. We've been into a location when the light is not correct. It might be the time of day. It might just be that the light was just too strong on that day. You know, the sun was just shining directly onto everything, you know. To go back and shoot it when the light's differently, or to try and manipulate the contrast throughout the whole entire scene to give it some dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, just to give it that bit of depth, eh?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways to do it, you know, especially in post-production. You know, you can manipulate even contrast just directly through color. Selecting just the purple, for example, in those blue, are they bluebells?
Yeah, bluebells, yeah.
Just selecting the color in those bluebells alone and making a selection, not a global selection, but we're talking about, you know, a very focused selection just on the purple itself. Yeah. And actually manipulating the luminosity and the saturation alone, just of that, can make such a difference in dimension. You know, it's not just about, okay, changing my contrast slider and, you know, there's so many things we can do to extract that data.
Yeah, it's more local adjustments rather than global adjustments.
Yeah, it is definitely. Yeah. Global adjustments are extremely destructive. You know, when we first start getting into photography and we start getting used to using Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever it is, we're just we love those sliders. And you got to remember when you use those sliders, you're being destructive to an image overall, you know. You got to remember when you're standing in a position, like I've got my tripod mounted. I've got my camera there on the tripod right in front of those ferns in that immediate foreground. My eye sees those ferns far more sharper. They've got a lot more luminosity and they have a lot more saturation when they're in front of me. My eye naturally, as it goes on in a distance, the atmosphere changes. Yeah. So things become softer. So we have to be very aware when we change sharpness globally, we change saturation or contrast, or we open shadows. We need to be very, very aware of what's in front of us and what's behind us. It's an extremely important tip in post-production and a big mistake that 95% of photographers make out there.
And the only other slight criticism I would have is I love the ferns. I love those ferns in the foreground.
Yeah.
But what I find is because they're pointing left and right, they're kind of leading you out of the frame rather than what's in the background for me. Anyway.
It is a little bit of a lead, those ferns, but at the same time, it's a bit of a frame, isn't it? It's like a natural frame around the image. There's nothing necessarily leading you into something because in the background, we just have a forest. So there's not one particular thing that's going to say, hey, okay, your eye needs to go there.
Yeah.
You know, it is a little bit of a messy scene. But, you know, at the same time, you could consider it as almost as an abstract landscape, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's nice. I still like it.
It's lovely. Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Good one, Ben.
Yeah, it's a nice shot.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, mate.
Right, so we'll move on to the next one. And while I'm doing that, I just want to remind you to get your images submitted for next month and use the hashtag OPG Critique in the official Outdoor Photography Guide Facebook group and submit your images for next month. I'm just wondering, you know, I was just sitting here thinking on the fly, is, would you guys that are watching want us to change this up slightly and do a themed kind of critique? As in, we give you a theme every month and you shoot for that theme and submit your images. Just a thought.
For sure.
Something to add a bit of, a bit of a change to it.
Definitely. OPG critique trees.
Yeah.
OPG critique beaches.
Yeah,
definitely.
Water, whatever it might be. You know, just something to make it a little different.
For sure.
But let us know in the comments what you think.
Please do.
So let's move on to this next one. Which is Craig's Hut, I think, by David Skinner.
Okay.
David Skinner.
Yeah.
David's always very active on the group.
Yeah,
it's great bloke. Great to have him on there, and he's got some lovely images. Yeah, look, I probably shouldn't start talking about this image because you won't shut me up.
There's nothing new there, so we're used to it, mate. Carry on.
The location, number one, is probably one of my most favourite locations in the whole entire world. I know this place. Craig's Hut was a log cabin, let's call it, built for a movie in the 1980s called The Man from Snowy River, which was a very popular movie in Australia. It's one of our iconic movies in Australia, and it was a movie about a wild horseman and a drover in the Alpine area in Australia, and in the movie, they actually filmed this scene as his house. So it's a very important location for Australian people. It's a very iconic place for us. And it's been burnt down about 3 or 4 times by bushfires and then rebuilt. That's how important it is for Australian people. And it's great to see him capture it. But I would like you guys to critique it. I've told you the story, so you guys can do the critiquing.
Right. It's a difficult one because
it is.
I like the subject. What I'm finding difficult though is, so you've got this fence on the right hand side, which is almost leading you down towards what's going on in the distance.
Yeah.
And then you have the hut on the left hand side doing the same thing. And then, so what my eye's doing anyway, it's kind of channeled down the middle rather than looking at the hut or looking at the fence.
Yeah.
My attention's drawn down the middle of the image, and there isn't a great deal going on down the middle. It's not until you get to the end where there's a great honking tree right in the middle of the view.
Yeah.
When I can see that behind that, there's lots going on. There's lots of depth. There's lots of rolling hills. There's lots of cloud and fog in the valleys below. But I'm kind of distracted by that tree at the end. And that's where my eyes led in the frame.
Okay, so if you could imagine yourself here, Paul, in this location, you could try and imagine what's around you.
Mm-hmm.
What would have you done if you were on location then?
I'm not sure actually, because I don't know what's surrounding it. That's my issue. I'm not actually sure. I don't know whether I would have shot it from front on, but then I don't know what's behind it.
Okay.
I think I probably would have taken a few different angles to find the best one.
Yeah.
I'm finding here, I don't know what's behind the building. I don't know what's more to the left of it, so it's kind of cut off.
Yeah. So behind that hut there, you've basically got those mountains that you can see in the background behind that bush.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's behind it as well.
That's what's behind. Yeah. If you look left and right, that's pretty much what you have. On the far left-hand side, it's a bush. There's a whole forest of eucalyptus trees.
Yeah.
But I don't know. For me, I know the location. I went there just before I started landscape photography, and I was spewing. I can't wait to go back there one day. Yeah. I would have just gone wider. It's a big beautiful area there, and I would have that hut is so gorgeous. It's iconic in Australia because it is beautiful. I would have just taken the whole entire frame, wide angle, gotten that house in, and just tried to capture more surrounds.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily have to use a leading line. I mean, that's not always necessary to use a leading line. If you've got a beautiful, vast landscape around you, just capture it, do a pano.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we don't always have to have that amazing foreground or a leading line. If the actual subject speaks for itself alone, there's no need to do anything. You know.
No, well, this is it.
Yeah,
this is it.
Post-production wise, he's done a very good job, I think.
Yeah. The only criticism I would have with post-production is, for me, it's the highlights on the right-hand side. That's the only criticism I would have of but that's more a case of taking the image in the first place. Maybe you can't get those back, but they kind of look a bit blown out on the right-hand side.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you look at that right-hand side, you look at that sky, it is broken there. So you are going to be getting a bit of the glare coming in from those broken clouds, sort of, that are more evident with respect to with respect to the rest of your landscape. Maybe a soft light brush in post-production just to put a bit of haze in there. Might have added to the atmosphere, but definitely.
Just that, obviously, with an image like this, your eye's always drawn to the brightest part of the image.
Yeah, I find it a bit distracting. Personally.
If you've got that going on over to the right, your eyes pulled to the right.
Definitely, yeah. So
and
maybe
there's nothing really going on over that side of the image. So
would you agree with that, Tom? Maybe go a little bit wider. Maybe go a bit wider.
Yeah, I would have gone a bit wider. I probably would have tried to lose that fence. If he was sort of pointing towards the left, and maybe centralising that hut a bit more. Maybe you could have lost them highlights then on the right in the sky, and like you said, go a little bit wider and just put the hut bang in the middle. If this, if it's possible. I think he's tried to put too many elements in the image, as opposed to opening it up and it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe. But then maybe he's shot this scene before, and this is something different for him that he was just experimenting with. Maybe.
Yeah, it's David's from Australia, and most Australians know this location because it's so iconic for us. He's probably just tried to take a different sort of look on how it's been captured, but for those people out there, which is everyone outside of Australia, because why would you know Craig's Hut? I can tell you now, this is probably the one location that I would happily go and photograph and die with a smile on my face, standing right in front of it. It is an unbelievable location, and good on you, David, for going up there and taking it, mate.
Yeah, spot on. I love the place. I love it. There's just things I would have changed, but it's the same for everything, isn't it? There's always things you could have done differently at the end of the day, but it's still a lovely image.
It's a good image for showing off, like for showing it. What's the word for publishing purposes?
Yeah, because you've got a lot of space, haven't you? You've got a lot of space for publishing and what have you. So it's good for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe David too. I know that location quite well. Back in the days, and there's a lot of ghost gums, which are eucalyptus trees. Most people know eucalyptus trees to be very, very tall, straight trees with straight branches coming out. But in this area specifically, because it does snow in winter, we get these trees called ghost gums, which is still eucalyptus, but they have very bendy branches, but they're very, very low. They're very eerie.
Yeah.
If you were to go back and sort of get behind the back of those trees and use them as a frame with Craig's Hut in the background, that's a tip for you, mate. That would be the ultimate scene.
Yeah,
so
that sounds good.
Go back, give it a go, mate, because the location is worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Lovely image. I think we've just got a hello from Mexico. From Martin Gonzalez.
Hi,
Right,
Martin.
we'll go on to the next image then. Just remind you again, please get your images in for next month using the hashtag OPG Critique and submit them to the official Facebook group, please. And also, as we discussed before, if you want us to change this up a bit and come up with themed critiques, please let us know in the comments. Right, so we'll move on to Northumberland and Phil Payne with another woodland image.
G'day, Phil.
Northumberland.
Yeah, Northumberland.
Hope you're with us tonight, Phil, mate. Phil usually is a frequent listener of ours, so I hope you're there with us tonight. If you are, just say hello in the comments so we know you're there.
Yeah, definitely say hello.
Right, come on then, Tom. This is your baby.
Go, mate.
There's a lot going on, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what we had obviously the first thing that strikes you is the initial deep greens and then black, sort of dark shadows in them. I take it look like oak, I suppose. They look like a bit like oaky, don't they?
Yeah, I think it is.
There's no real, for me, there isn't a real focal point. It's it definitely portrays a chaotic woodland.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like Matt said earlier about the image, Ben's image, is that you have got a bit of separation from the background in this image, aren't you? Where you can see the softness in the back, and it's not as bright and vibrant as the front.
Yeah, so you've kind of got separation.
You got separation, yeah, and you can see some of the light hitting the moss on the side of the trees. So it has got things going for it, definitely.
Yeah, I think what he's tried to do is use the depth of field as the separation.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, yeah. There's nice colours, nice textures, some lovely textures, and there are some nice patterns and shapes. There's a lot to look at, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot going on for the eye to follow around. You find it hard to make your eye land on one particular place.
Yeah. Yeah, which in some instances it works, for an image like that. If it's quite busy, your eye doesn't really settle on one place.
It works because the composition works. The actual composition of those trees in that foreground actually do work. The composition's spot on.
Yeah, I like it.
It's the lack of separation, isn't it, in this image?
Yeah.
There's no separation between those bendy trees and those trees you have in the background due to many elements in the scene.
Yeah.
Not having that separation, your eye doesn't. It stops in the foreground, doesn't it? It wants to move back. It wants to go into those trees in the background, but it can't quite do it.
Yeah, because there's nothing to kind of pull you through to that. I think that's.
Is that due to the time of day the image was taken?
Yeah, I would say it's quite a harsh, maybe an overcast day, but a bright overcast day. Do you think?
Yeah, maybe the canopy and the top of the trees were, didn't have too many leaves on them, so the light was coming directly through.
Yeah. Now you think it's really difficult, isn't it? It's really difficult. I mean, the thing for me is I think the actual this branch in the foreground, this one here, would make a great subject if it was isolated.
Yeah, definitely.
Even like an abstract, you know what I mean? If it was like isolated, but because everything's going on behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Tom, if you're the woodland man, right? You take woodlands 90% of the time, okay?
Yeah.
Twig cuddler.
If you were to walk, if you were to walk past this scene, I guarantee you would stop and say, "Oh, that looks interesting."
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh,
so,
I'm not saying. Yeah, I would. It's the scene that I would definitely look at. Yeah.
And you would probably say to yourself, I might come back on a foggy morning, or I might come back on a morning where the light isn't so harsh, or come in a different time of year when the colours change, because the framing's excellent. You can't deny that. Yeah.
Do you know what obviously the whole post-production manipulation chat. It's one of them images where if you was looking to sort of experiment, shall we say, with what you can do in post-production, it's the sort of image that you could go to town on, and you could really replicate them sorts of conditions. You know what I mean? It's like an image that you could an image that you could really practice on trying to emulate that sort of frosty, misty morning.
But then again, at the same time, there's too many. Do you guys in the UK or in America use the word twigs? There's too many.
Yeah.
There's too many small twiggy branches in between. Sorry, in between that middle ground there that sort of don't help break the scene up. So even if you said, okay, look, I'm going to put a fog filter in, or I'm going to do something to try and change that scene with post-production, how would you do that with all that extra noise of all those branches and everything in there? It does lack something. Like, we all know that Paul loves simplicity in his images. Very, very simple images, where an isolated tree or a mountain with the sunrise, or rocks on the beach. Something very, very simple. This scene is the complete opposite to simple, isn't it? I'm not putting it down by saying that. I'm just saying that.
Oh no.
To get an image in post-production and try and manipulate it, you do need some form of simplicity, because otherwise Photoshop's going to have a look at it and say, "What the hell am I doing here?" It's not going to be. It's not going to be easy for Photoshop to get all that information. It's big work in it. Big work.
Yeah. It is.
I think it would just be easy just to go back another time of year, to be honest with you. But definitely go back, Phil. Go back to that same place. Capture it. Different lighting, different season.
What you really need is pea soup thick fog.
Yeah.
To be able to completely do away with that background.
Because what I like about it is obviously that most of the image is dead, and it's got bright, sunny conditions, and they fight each other. And if you had like Paul said, if you had that pea soup, that sort of eerie, or a frosty and foggy morning, would be even better. Like in a winter, sort of real depth of dead, that would complement the scene, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But the composition. Excuse me. To the initial eye, it looks messy, but when you start looking at it and you start seeing the elements, amongst like Matt said, some of the distracting mess in that sort of in behind the initial foreground. If that was softened, then it would sing, I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Just about creating that atmosphere and having the right conditions to create it, I think, and just to give that bit more separation. He's separated with the depth of field, but I think it needs more separation with the actual conditions, I think, more than anything.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely. Nice shot, though. Nice shot,
yeah.
Phil. Thanks for your input, mate. We appreciate you putting all those images out. Yep.
Yeah, it's nice someone fighting the forest corner for me.
Twig cuddlers united.
Yeah.
Martin Gonzalez says, "Can I share a picture I took this morning?" No, unfortunately not. But it raises an interesting kind of question. Actually, I wonder if there's actually a way to do a live stream where people can upload their images live.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It would confuse us, though, wouldn't it? Huh?
Well, it doesn't take a lot, but it was just a thought.
Definitely. I've just found this pen on the table, and I'm holding it now, and I feel like I'm more intelligent. So if I hold the pen in my hand, If I put it behind the back, whatever works. I'll put it behind that. I can't stick it behind the back of my ear because I got the headphones on. But anyway, I feel like I'm thinking more with the pen in my hand.
I'm glad about that, mate.
Yeah, well done,
Right, so we'll move on again, and please get your submissions in for next month using the hashtag OPG Critique in the official Outdoor Photography Guide Facebook group. That will be fantastic.
Please.
And another one in from Australia is Hunter Valley. I'm assuming NSW is New South Wales.
Yes, it is. I'm loving these Aussie shots tonight. It's great.
Yeah, nice.
And that's
isn't it?
Colin Mcdonald.
That looks very
And
similar
Colin
to where I
often
live.
submits.
G'day, Colin. How are you, mate?
Yeah, he does, doesn't he? Yeah.
I tell you what first strikes me about this. I love the sky.
Yeah. I like shots that have farmland, like groomed land, worked land. I know it's not farm fields. Yeah,
but you know what I mean.
It's been cultivated over the years, and
it's grazing land here.
Yeah.
Lots of cows around.
Yeah, it looks very similar to where I live. It's very like lush and green and rolling hills. People are always a bit like, we've cultivated land, but I just think it's really easy on the eye. Your eye rolls through it nice. The sky's good. It's a nice warm image, which
the rising mist makes this shot, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, it's got character. I feel like I can get a gist of what the conditions were like by looking at the image. So it portrays that moment in time quite well, which is important to me when I take shots. So, no, I like it.
This is a typical example when we refer to landscape photography. If you don't have light on the landscape, you don't have landscape photography.
Yeah.
Now, it's beautiful to capture sunrises and sunsets, but if that light itself is only captured in the sky and not on our landscape, we don't generally have a pleasing image.
Yeah.
You can see the light on this landscape, and it's just if people look at it and see the detail and depth throughout the whole entire images, because we actually do have light on the land itself.
Yeah.
It's just so much more of a pleasing image, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we've got what we were talking about before with that other image. In this one, we've actually got it because you can see the difference in contrast depth from the back, which is kind of slightly hazy.
Yeah.
Right to the foreground, which is really quite contrasty and punchy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Definitely,
For me, it's... sorry, Tom. No, please. I've done enough talking for this evening. You go, please.
I was just going to say, I was basically just going to agree with Paul, really. This image ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? Technically and conditions, I think. I would say just quickly, you see where you got the initial trees in the foreground, where he can. He has separated. He's put some space around some of the trees, which is quite important in that middle foreground.
Yeah,
you got 4 trees with the shadow underneath. That's sort of isolated. There's a little one next to it's isolated. Some of the trees on the right. So where he can, he has added a little bit of space. So he's not overlapped the trees everywhere. Which adds depth and it stops the image looking flat.
Yeah, it gives dimension and it gives the whole image breathing space, I think.
That's it. Yeah. Obviously, you can't do it everywhere.
He's given himself a good point of view. I mean, he's at the right height to be able to looking down to get a very good point of view.
That's
to
it,
get a very good focal depth to look down upon the landscape, and that's important. Sometimes it's important. We need to walk backwards or we need to walk forwards just so we get that right depth and focal interest into our image to give it what we need. And he's done a very, very good job of that. As you said, there's no overlapping because of the actual position where he took the image from. I mean, sitting up on a hill or whatever it was on the roof of his car.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he might be on the roof of his Jeep or something.
You know, I only have one. I always have criticisms, but even but every image has a criticism, because imperfection in photography is it's always going to come out, isn't it? And that's what's beautiful about it. Imperfection sometimes makes the images even more beautiful. In this case, if I was going to be picky with this image and say, okay, how could I just make this landscape even better? I think there is a little bit of a hint of a color cast in that sky that I would try and eliminate. It's a little bit too yellow. On the orange, browny yellow.
Yeah.
Just try and...
It's a bit muddy, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I think you'd have to get into post-production. You'd have to experiment on a few different types of colors, saturation, luminance, sort of make a sky selection and try and play with them a little bit.
Yeah.
It does have this little bit of an odd color cast where it almost looks like it's maybe had a sky selection and it's been desaturated.
Yeah.
To lose the blue in the sky. It's maybe
they've desaturated the whole sky rather than actually just desaturating a color. I think that's possibly what's happened. Because it's actually desaturated the whites as well, and to me, I would have probably brought the whites back.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's put like a grad filter on that in post. Do you not think that's why maybe the mountains are a little bit dull as well? Do you think could you have pulled a grad down on that? And
it's one of those. It's one of those skies you need to see the raw image to understand exactly what's happened there. But it all comes down to experimenting when you pull up a raw image. Okay, what's the best approach I can use? But even leaving it like that, mate, great image. I'd happily have that up on my wall. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Well done.
Very nice.
Well done,
I miss home. I've had two images of Australia tonight. The next image that Paul's going to bring up is a picture of a kangaroo.
I usually send you those in chats.
Oh yeah,
you do. But the kangaroo's usually holding an Aussie beer. Yeah.
Foster's, is it? Foster's?
Yeah, something like that.
No, it's not Australian beer. No. They're not Australian beers. No, they're just Castlemaine. Jeez.
Castlemaine 4X, yeah.
God, come on. They're like the worst beers ever.
So, guys, just want to remind you again, if my voice doesn't disappear, is to get your images in for next month's critique.
Sound like you're going through puberty.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? with the hashtag OPG critique, and submit your images for next month. That would be fantastic. And again, I just want to remind you that we just came up with the idea of having like a themed critique. So if you really like that idea, please send us a message in the chat. Really interesting to hear, or even just leave us a message on Facebook. We'd really like to hear about it.
For sure.
Right, we're going to go at this one because I love this image.
Yeah.
Oh. Where did this guy come from? All of a sudden, he just started going bang and putting images up all one after the other, just out of nowhere. And I was like, hang on a second.
Who's he? Yeah, and some lovely images as well. Some really lovely work.
Yeah,
it's nice.
Joseph, if you're out there, mate, do us a favour and put a post up on the group and tell us a little bit about yourself, because we know nothing about you. And all of a sudden you've just gone bang and just thrown all these images on there. And there's quite a few on there that have captured my interest. And this is one of them.
Yeah.
And this is Storms in the Tetons, which is the US. So there's some lovely work. And this is one of them. Absolutely beautiful.
The Teton National Park. It's a quite recently very photographed destination in the US. A lot of people are going there and photographing at the moment, and it's good to see that Joseph has taken another sort of outlook on the landscape there. He hasn't gone for the big scene that everyone takes. He's sort of focused in and captured something very intimate. Very powerful.
It's It's the kind of image that stands out to me. Actually, it's the kind of sort of scene that stands out to me when I'm out on location. Is I quite often, even when we were in Italy, I'll take the big scene, but when I see clouds moving over mountains and stuff like that, that's what I want to capture when I'm
yeah, definitely.
Because it's got that element of mystery and kind of an ethereal look to it, a bit of a fantasy sort of feel.
Yeah, it's very hard to replicate.
You're waiting for a dragon to come flying out, aren't you?
Yeah.
Jamie Garrett's just popped up a message saying hello from Ayr in Scotland. How's it going, Jamie?
Hi, Jamie. All right.
G'day, Jamie.
I bet it's not 34 degrees there.
Yeah,
I bet it's not, mate. I bet it's not.
Like here. Yeah, so just a beautiful image, and I love the way he's captured the kind of the highlights and shadows going on the hills there. It's just really nice.
You know, like when we were just in Italy, or it applies to obviously this type of photography, but you know, when you initially get drawn to the rolling clouds and the fleeting light, it's very hard to capture a good composition and get the light where you want. You know what I mean? Whereas he's obviously, I think he's probably spotted this composition and probably camped for a little bit, hasn't he? And waited. He's waited for the light to hit where he wanted it on, and the clouds to reveal certain aspects where he knew he wanted to have visible. You know what I mean? It's not. Doesn't feel like oh, that's light. I'm going to smack the long lens on and just snap away. It feels like he's actually seen this and he's waited for the right moment.
Yeah,
which is quite nice.
I mean, for me, when you're in a landscape like this, if you're taking the grand landscape, you usually want to see the top of the mountain because you want to kind of have that sort of scale and that feeling about it. But with an image like this, you actually want those bits that are concealed because it adds that element of mystery to the whole thing.
Definitely, yeah, 100%.
So the only thing that stands out to me, sorry to interrupt, is I don't know what's going on, whether it's just the quality of the image, I don't know, and whether it's the quality of what Facebook does to your images when it's uploaded, but this peak here looks a lot more crunchy than this one over here. And I don't know why that is.
It is hard to tell sometimes, isn't it, with Facebook compression?
Yeah, it just index images, doesn't it? It really does. It just...
And maybe he's just sort of sharpened locally and maybe crunched it up a bit, maybe to sort of make it pop, make it stand out a bit more.
Yeah. Whereas this over here, this has got a much nicer feel about it.
Yeah, it's a bit softer, isn't it?
Softer, and it's just got that, you know, it kind of goes with the conditions. Whereas this sort of makes... I don't. That just could be Facebook compression. I don't know. I really don't know. Without seeing the file, you just never know with this, do you?
It could be. It could be a classic example of I want to make my image nice and bold, and I want to make it stand out for social media.
It is a high impact shot. Yeah.
You try and put that little bit of extra boldness into an image to give it impact to someone who, you know, as we're talking about these days, if you post an image onto social media. The attention span of a viewer of that image is less than 1 second.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine, scroll literally. If you were to have a print in a gallery, now your attention span for that image would be more than 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Same image. So try and put that into perspective and try and understand why we how we capture and how we actually deal with digital files in post-production now as opposed to how we did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
30 years ago it wasn't digital photography. I'm just saying, you know, how we captured images back then, how we do it now.
Yeah.
We try and give them more, we make them more impactful because we're so saturated with this amount of media. You know, I couldn't put a number on it, but let's say that in the 1980s or the 1990s even, you might have seen, I don't know, 20 landscape images per week to the average viewer, where that would be in a magazine, on television, in a gallery. And now the average viewer is going to probably see a few hundred landscape images, even if they're not interested in it per day.
Yeah.
So you just understand why people's attention span has changed over the time. So by making an image more impactful, we're trying to get that attention. But at the same time, it's great to get that attention on social media, but if you want to give value to your image, you should do what you want to do with that image. If you feel that that image deserves to be a print, maybe back off a little bit on that darkness in the sky, that vignetting, that local vignetting there, or that really, really high contrast and whites in that immediate foreground of that mountain peak, and try and really focus on doing your post-production for print, for the image to last a lifetime.
It tends to be these days is people will edit like in a way like this for impact, and then if it goes to print, they'll probably re-edit it. That's just the way. It's the way it tends to be now, isn't it? I suppose it's like, I'm editing for Everyone talks about what you edit. I'm editing for the web. I'm editing for print. It tends to be the separated things now, aren't they?
Yeah, you don't just edit one file, and that's it.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Matt. Yeah, definitely. It's a shame that the average person, unless you was a photographer, you probably wouldn't look at this for that long. Obviously, I would do if I seen this on my Instagram feed. I would. But I'm a photographer, so.
And if you saw an image in Patagonia of Max Rive, for example, and you're not a photographer, you probably look at the image for 2 or 3 minutes, because that image is by Max Rive in Patagonia is designed specifically for Instagram or Twitter or whatever, because they're images specifically designed to capture the attention of someone seeing it in a digital format on a telephone. So there are important things to remember when you're dealing with your raw files, how you want that final result to be. And it's all great for people out there when you start to getting in photography and you want to show your images off. And we all get a huge satisfaction from people telling us on social media our images are great, or you get more followers, or what that is. But at the same time, try and remember that you went to a lot of effort to go to that location, take that image. You need to make sure that you edit the image the way that you want it to be. Okay, fine. If you're there to go and take a photo because you're going to become famous on Instagram, well, go crazy. But if you are serious about landscape, outdoor photography, any photography, and you want to continue as a photographer throughout your life, it's important to give respect to your images and treat them the way they need to be treated.
Definitely. Yeah. However, we're just kind of surmising that that's what you've done, and if it's the case that it's just Facebook compression or just the quality of the image, then so be it. But it just lovely image, and it stood out.
Joseph, beautiful. Absolutely. We picked it for a reason, because it all took our attention when we saw it. So great image, mate. Yeah, beautiful images.
Well done. Right, moving on again. Just to remind you all again, please use the hashtag OPG Critique for next month and upload your pictures to the official Outdoor Photography Guide Facebook group. We'd love to see them. I mean, we've had some fantastic ones this year, so really, really look forward to seeing more.
Yeah.
Just want to go to this one, actually, because this was Tori M. Bird. And if you remember rightly, a critique maybe, 3 months ago, she submitted an image, and we critiqued that it would be nice to see more of the area around it.
Yeah, we did,
yeah.
So she's resubmitted another image that she's gone back and taken. So I just thought it'd be interesting to actually see the difference she's made.
This is right up your alley, Paul, isn't it, mate? Panos, mate. This is right up your alley.
Panos. This is one of those panos that the Fuji takes so well.
Fuji pano. Don't get him started on the Fuji panos.
Yeah, I'm addicted to these kind of panos. I really am. I love it. I love this format. I don't know why. I'm just addicted to this kind of format now. It's got a lovely feel about this one. I prefer this a lot more to the last one she submitted. Because she's kind of gone back and taken more of the wider area in. And if you remember with the last one, there was this weird sort of track that kind of led down. It's gone. It's not there. So I think we're either, because she's gone wider, it's kind of disappeared into the landscape. So it's not as distracting anymore. And
I remember.
Sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I remember speaking to her on commenting on it, and a couple of times on Facebook recently. About this shot.
Yeah, because she tagged us in it, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
But this is a lot different. I like this. It's got these sort of green patches down here.
Literally just about to say that. Yeah.
Because of the if you follow them down, I think they're probably where like there's a riverbed or some kind of stream bed, and all the green lush vegetation's kind of following that.
Yeah.
And it's
almost like life to the mountain. It's like light. It's almost like the mountains are sucking the life out of the land.
Yeah. Because it's taking it in the veins of the mountains there.
That's it. Yeah.
I tell you, it looks about as hot as what it is here right now. I just had a bit of sweat. I just had a bit of sweat come off my nose. Then that's when you know it's really hot. When you get the bit of sweat coming off the middle of your nose, you go, "Okay, it's hot. It's hot now." Yeah.
So this is working a lot better for me. This image actually, I really like it, and it's got balance.
It's
got a nice balance with these because she's kind of come back further. It's got a nice balance between these two, kind of really match each other really pretty well.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's got a lot going for it. I like it. I do like it.
And the texture in the rock as well, where you can see the banding in the rocks, and that really draws your attention.
Yeah, it's a nice showpiece for the area, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything you said. You can, I always say, if you go to a location, especially if you can afford to go back more than once, you're always better off going back to that location till you get the right conditions. And if by any chance this location is close to where, is it Tory?
Yeah, Tory, yeah.
Where if it is a location that's reasonably close to Tory's house, it's accessible, you can get there. Definitely the landscape, the view is amazing. Like I was talking about before, about light on landscape, it would be nice to have a little bit more light on it. To give it does lack a little bit of atmosphere. It is a tad dull on some aspects, but at the same time, we get this nice texture in the mountains that does sort of give it that sort of middle ground balance to make it work. It's a personal preference in this case, I think, but the pano crop does make it.
Yeah, it works well.
If this wasn't a pano crop, it probably wouldn't be as effective, but the fact of it being that, what crop is this exactly?
I don't know, but I mean, I know on the Fuji it's like 65-24, something like that. It's something similar to that, I would suggest.
I think the crop saves the image on many aspects. If it was a standard, standard crop, there'd probably be more things to pick out of it. But because it is that crop, it's giving you a very good field of view. And like I said, the textures in that middle grain of those rock formations sort of almost give you some form of atmosphere. But I would like to see definitely at a time of day where you could have a little bit more atmosphere into the scene.
Yeah. But well done, Tori, and well done for going back. Well done.
Definitely.
You have made all the difference with the image. Fantastic.
For sure.
Right, just to remind you again, we're coming up on an hour. Just to remind
you again
to get your images in for next month using the hashtag OPG Critique and submit those to the official Outdoor Photography Guide Facebook group. We'd love to see them. Right, so I'm going to go to Stephen San Marco. There you go. What are you thinking of this?
Who's going first?
Go ahead. You go ahead, Matt.
Really?
Yeah.
I like the comp.
Mm-hmm.
Do like the comp. It's quite bright in certain areas.
Yeah, that's kind of my issue with it, I think.
Yeah, it's quite.
Okay.
This bottom right corners, I don't know. It's just a bit bright for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not as much detail in there as I feel like there would be if he was there. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah. Just before we go any further, just let me stop you. We've just had a comment from Joseph, who did the photograph of the mountains.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said,
G'day,
"Hey,
Joseph.
I'm from South Louisiana and recently moved to Colorado. I've been doing photography for a little over a year with something other than my cell phone."
You're doing a bloody good job at it, mate. Keep it up.
Yeah, really good. Really good.
Keep it up, mate.
Yeah,
You've definitely got talent there. You've got an eye for composition. Be interesting to see what you're like in 5 years' time, mate. Because
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you were blowing us out of the water if you only been doing it for a year.
Yeah. Really annoying when you get that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You hate people that are natural at something, you know.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, that was a banger, mate. Yeah, we're all good.
So really back to this image. Sorry for interrupting there, but
I need to pick up my pen again. Hang on. There we go.
It was better now. All
right. Okay, so if you were going to this location, let's think about it. You're hitting this location. What are we capturing? What's the main subject?
It's the waterfall.
That's the waterfall.
That's the waterfall. Yeah. Okay, so look, we've got a series of cascades there, and we've got this bottom one, which is very, it's very grand, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's very powerful. Yeah. So let's put the highlights, the blown out highlights, to the side.
Yeah.
Let's focus on why we're actually here. We're not actually here to capture the grass on the edge of a very small cliff, or this old stone wall at the front there. You're not going there to photograph a stone wall. You're actually going there to photograph the waterfall itself. And the thing is, it's great to get foreground interest. And I always tell people out there, when you go into a location, the main subject is X. So always photograph the X, but then try and get a foreground that will complement X, because X isn't going to move. So start looking on the ground for wildflowers or stones or whatever it is that can give you some depth into the image and give it more interest and make it more yours.
Yeah.
In this instance, you're hitting this location, and that, for me, that composition of that wall with those blown out highlights and that grass, rather than it's not complementing, it's actually distracting, because you're directly behind the back of you, got this powerful waterfall just going smack straight into the water. I want to be able to see it, and it's blocking it.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got that X in the background, but don't block the X. Complement it. Give it something. Frame it, but don't block it. In this case, that foreground has blocked the subject.
Yeah.
So, I understand the mindset behind... what's the name of the photographer that took this, sorry?
Stephen San Marco.
Stephen San Marco. So, Stephen, I understand sort of your creative mindset going there. You wanted to put some foreground element to complement that waterfall, but try and understand that at the same time you have blocked it a little bit. So maybe if you had have sort of moved over to the right or gone down the bottom and put some rocks into your foreground, it maybe might have made that image a little bit more powerful, because it is a beautiful location, and that waterfall, look at that power of that waterfall. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Probably the shutter speed. I mean, we've all talked about shutter speeds, and people will find over on the group on our tutorials, we've all discussed shutter speeds in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
this is a classic example where shutter speed has been a little bit too over-abused. We love to do long shutter speeds, but when the dynamics in water flow are so powerful, it's only necessary to go to 1/3 of a second to get that movement, but maintain some dynamic, some information in that water flow. See how that water flow, it's a little bit too silky. And at the same time, the highlights in that silkiness have been blown out a little bit as well too.
Yeah, that's my pet hate in water, I must admit. I don't like to see blown out highlights in water.
No, it's something you got to be careful of. When you got your camera out and you got your LCD screen, always put your highlight warning on. So if you get into the settings of your camera, get onto your LCD screen and find highlight warning. Now, what will happen is it'll tell you when you're burning white pixels. So you should always have them on your LCD screen as a warning. So if you know that, you might have to drop it down by 2 stops or 3 stops or sometimes even 5 stops. The dynamic ranging camera sensors these days are so powerful, you can afford to drop your stops right off and still gain the information in your shadows later on. If you burn your highlights, you've burnt the image. You cannot go backwards.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing is, it's specular highlights as well. I mean, it's not all of the highlights. It's just specular highlights that happen most of the time. It's just those bits where it's usually bubbling and it's frothing, and it just goes. Yeah. There's nothing you can do about it.
So remember, Stephen, when you're capturing a foreground, okay, that foreground has to complement the subject itself. And when I mean complement it, the foreground has to give a frame, or it has to lead you into that scene itself. If it is any way blocking the scene, the subject of interest, that's when we've distracted the viewer. And in this case, that wall there has distracted the viewer because the main power of that waterfall is actually behind that wall itself. So maybe you're shifting yourself over a little bit or going down to the bottom of that waterfall itself would have been a far more pleasant image, I think. So definitely go back there and give it a go again, mate.
Yeah, but definitely.
Can understand where you've come from taking this image. You've tried to, you've tried to frame, you tried to complement the image, and it's great for you to do that because that's important for our creative workflow to be able to do that. And that's what separates a good photographer to an excellent photographer is being able to use framing and using elements in a scene to complement the major subject.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I will say, like, sorry, mate, you go.
It's all right. You carry on.
I was just going to say, like, in certain instances with waterfalls where you got like more of a cascade as opposed to more running water in a thicker body of water. Obviously, they fall at different rates, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So if you shot this all at thirds, some parts might be too slow, some parts might be too fast, and if you was to sort of take multiple images at slightly different shutter speeds as well, and you could paint areas in that were maybe too fast and holding them areas back a bit was always a good technique, I find.
Yeah, definitely.
For getting what you want at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's a common theme actually from when I've taken people out on workshops is they'll stand at the side of a river to try and get the shot of a waterfall, and you always get an imbalance by doing that. You always get part of the bank, or you always get something, and you don't get the same. People say, well, how do they get the feeling of the water rushing towards them? That's because you've got to be committed and you've got to get in it.
Yeah.
It's no good standing on the side of it. You've got to be actually in the water to get the right perspective of looking at a waterfall like this. You need to be in the water. It's the only way to get the sense of the water rushing towards you. It's the only way to actually...
Knee-high waterproof boots,
Yeah.
wellies, you call them in the UK. In Australia, we call them gum boots. I've got no idea what you call them in the US. You need them. Going to go to shoot waterfalls, they're mandatory.
Yeah,
and you need a damn good tripod. No flimsy tripod business here. You need a good sturdy tripod. If you're going to stick those tripod legs in the water, it needs to be a very good tripod because that minimum shake can be destructive to the image.
Yeah, definitely. But that's what's going to give you a different images to everybody else. It's going to give you that sort of proper feel to it from capturing a waterfall, is to actually be in the water at the level where the water is, because nobody else gets that point of view. They're looking at that waterfall from the side. So when you're actually in the water, you're seeing something that most people won't see.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true.
Katie's just saying, in America we call them waders, like you wade into the water. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Makes sense.
Waders.
That does make sense.
Right. So yeah, fantastic image. But definitely I would go back and get into the water and just try again. That's what I would do with that. I mean, you've got some lovely shapes in the rocks and everything over here. You can see where the water's warm.
Yeah, so much there to capture.
Look for something like that as a foreground rather than this over here.
And if you slip on the rock and fall on your back, don't worry about getting, paralyzed. It's just hold your tripod and the camera out of the water so that doesn't get damaged. Don't worry about your health. I've done it so many times. I think, why did I just do that? I saved my camera, but I could have killed myself. What's more important?
Yeah.
Your wallet's more important.
So, word of advice. I'll give you a word of advice as far as that goes. If you're getting wellies or gumboots or waders, get them with a Vibram sole, because it does help with grip on slippy rocks and stuff like that. If you get standard, just cheap wellies, you'll be on your back in no time. But get something with a Vibram sole and it helps you to keep grip. Right, fantastic. I think we'll end it there, I think. So it's been great to get back to it all. If we can just want to kind of remind everyone, though, is to use the hashtag OPG Critique and submit all your images for next month to the official Outdoor Photography Facebook group. It would be fantastic. We haven't had any feedback about kind of themed critiques, but if you would like to leave any of that sort of information on the Facebook group, we'll kind of take note of it and see what you want to do from here. It was just an idea that came to light, really. I just thought, well, how can we change it up a little bit? And if we have something themed that we point people towards, it might just
like the theme we had for the photo contest.
Like we did for Nature's Textures, that was a themed sort of thing. So if we kind of came up with a theme, whether it be water, so we could do like like seascapes, waterfalls, all of that sort of thing, or lakes, anything, or whatever the theme might be, it just might help kind of engage you a little bit more, and we can kind of come up with some sort of
definitely
critique.
Or we could actually have members actually coming on live and then doing live critiques on our images.
Yeah, well, there's that as well. There you go. Lots to think about. So, guys, thanks everybody for joining us again, and we'll look forward to next month's critique. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.